G'day guys, apologies for the delay in assembling another video for you guys, but you guys, beta testers, very patient with me. Thank you for not sending me a lot of emails following up and saying, hey Marcus, where you're at with this thing. So I appreciate your patience, but I thought I'd cut a quick video. It's Friday the 12th, and I'm going to endeavour to put some more videos out there just for you guys so that you know where, from a product development standpoint, where I'm at. It's also a good thing to just share, I guess, what's been going on in the background. Very time consuming, I can tell you that much. Not a day goes by where I haven't spent many hours working on the project, but without labouring sort of the number of hours that have gone in the background, let's just bring you up to speed as to what's changed, or what's developed, I should say. And on the surface of things are going to look very much the same, but in the background, the engine and the architecture and the structure in the background has been developed extensively, to sort of understate the requirements of having a very strong structure behind this thing, so it's as robust and as modular as it possibly can be, is an understatement. So okay, so let's introduce a couple of things without yapping on too long. One thing that you may notice that has changed here is right here we have natal foundations versions, and again, apologies guys, this text is probably going to appear very small to you guys. For me, it's if you're looking at this on your own screen as your own product rather than a video on YouTube, these things are a whole lot clearer. So just sort of bear that in mind, guys. But excuse me. One thing that will happen is there's a module that's been built, or a program that's been built, that I've titled it as UI polish, so the user interface polish. In which case there will be just a dedicated session just to go over all things like font sizes, font choices, background colors, foreground colors. Just some user interaction things where you guys can choose to do different things, just so that the screen, arrangement is, the way you like it. My plan is to be able to, this panel as an example, you can pick this panel up and move it over a little bit. There's a few different things here that I've already done, so like wheel size, you can do a glyph size, text size. At the moment, you can see this thing jumping around a little bit. All that's queued up to be fixed at the moment. My focus really has been just on making sure that the engine is correct, the mechanics are correct, that the methodology behind astrological interpretation is as bulletproof as it can be. I've maintained the focus on traditional astrology with a slight blend of modern in there, so when interpretation is being done, it will make mention of things in the modern format, but it will always reference back to classical astrology. So over here, one thing you hopefully you can see on your screen through YouTube is that there's various natal versions here, and I can make a natal version active or inactive. Why would you do that? So the answer to that question is quite simply that as time goes by, you may find that your natal time is actually not correct. You start doing readings, things are misaligned, and you can then later on go in and edit your profile and say, okay, well look, and this is part and parcel of the functionality of what I'm building here, and that is natal rectification. So if you find that the readings that you're doing are just off, they just don't seem to be reading correctly, and that's happening consistently, it means that you may well have the correct natal date and location, but the time that is being notified that you were born is actually off a bit, and that affects your house position. So invariably what you'll wind up being able to do is rectify your natal correctly, and then come back in here and modify the time of day that you were born, and then regenerate a new foundation. The other thing is that based on feedback that I get from the market, will be that maybe I need to change the definitions by which the AI generates a natal foundation, in which case there will be different versions of that. And look, spent considerable amount of time going through the generation of natal foundations, and I'm quietly confident that I've got it correct, but time will tell, guys. in which case if there's an upgrade or an addition or subtraction from the way that the AI generates a natal foundation, then a little note will pop up here, just as it is now. Improved method available. Next reading will regenerate or generates a new natal foundation. So if I was to click AI interpret now, it's not going to just do a reading for the 12th of June 2026. It'll actually generate a new natal foundation document, and that natal foundation document sits there as an anchor for all transit readings. Okay, so some new stuff that's popped up here. I've added some stuff down here, so I'm going to expand all of these just so you can see them. So what you would have seen before is just the transit readings. So these are transit readings. I won't go over what these are because I've gone through them in other videos. There's a research and exploration section here. So let's say that you were researching an event that came up, let's just choose this, the 30th of May 2026. You were doing some work in this for this particular date, and there was no biographical pattern that was appearing. There was an event that happened on that day that just didn't seem to connect with prior patterns that you've seen in your life. Well, you can move this guy. You hit this little research button here, it's going to pop over and it's going to sit over here now. You can see here on the 8th of June 2026, this date I was working with before. I shifted it over to research and exploration because later on I can go in and view this. It'll shift the by wheel. I can go and look at the current reading and say, okay, let's now connect some of the biographics. What actually happened on that day relative to planetary transits against the backdrop of my natal positions and progressed planets, and see if I can draw some conclusion from that. And just a note on that, it doesn't mean that every event in your life is going to have an exact hit, or if it does have a hit, it might be something that's might not be exactly the headline thing that you remember from the event in your life. So here, just coming back to this part of the screen, here's natal foundation. So here's all the natal foundations I've run. Now, generally speaking, as just a regular user, you're not going to have 7 or 8 different natal readings in there. I've got 7 or 8 because I'm doing extensive testing. So you'll at most probably only have 1 or 2, depending on of course, if your natal is correctly rectified in the first instance. I've got another area here called domain synthesis, and this is something that I've been working on solidly for a week and a half, slowly but surely getting closer. What might not be legible to you guys watching this video is this little note here. It says domain synthesis will appear here when generated. What does that mean? Effectively, we have 5 key areas within your life. Money, finances, your occupation, relationships, self-development and health. And the module that I'm building at the moment will have it where you'll click a button. The button actually will appear right here, right next to Generate Foundation. And it's going to develop your 5 life domains. For example, it could be vocation. For example, you might want to have a better understanding of what your occupation, your vocation, your employment, etc. What that entails and what it's going to do. Basically, it's going to draw from a natal foundation. It's going to look at how things sit for you natally. It's then going to consider how things from a progressed state, so progressions, primary and secondary progressions, and develop the synthesis, which will sit there as part of the foundation. So once this is built, what we'll have is natal foundations and a domain synthesis, which acts as part of your foundations, because it will dig deeper into your progressions, your life progressions, or planetary progressions, aka a day for a year. And then as I say, these 2 sections here will sit as support. They will sit as the foundations for every transit reading. And while this module has yet to be built, it's very, very close to being built. All the architecture's just being put in place now. And I've probably got about 2-3 solid days of work to get this up and running. I'm expecting to have that done by sort of mid next week. in which case I'll be able to present another video to you guys and have a look at some domain synthesis against the backdrop of natals, and then produce a reading from there, a transit reading. So that's it in a nutshell, guys. I don't really have much else to tell you at this point. I'm pretty happy with the way the product's coming together. There's been a few bugs along the way. They tend to be the more time-consuming things. As you can imagine, if you're sitting down and reading, I'm going to launch this natal foundation for myself here. You end up reading, these natal foundations, transits, and then looking at the data to make sure that what's being quoted here is actually correct. It gets extremely time consuming. You end up going cross-eyed. There is actually an error in this reading here that I'm working on at the moment. Just to give you an idea, it's right here. Saturn sextile to the MC at the age of 5 brings insect malefica to dialogue with a public standing in career matters early in life. Progressed MC enters Leo at the age of 7, bringing 11th house affairs under solar rulership in the public domain. Well, that all reads fine, but there's actually an error here. And so, part of the architecture of this program, as we speak, is being modified in order to correct this, because this is not actually correct. It's that's me pointing out an error, part of the reason why things are taking so long is because you read every single one of these lines to make sure that things are correct. But here's a natal reading, and I've been through this I don't know, probably 7 or 8 times, just to go through and make sure it's correct. And would you believe that right there is the only error that I've found in the document, and I know why the error is there, and I know what the fix is. And so as we speak, that error is being fixed by Claude Code. And once that's been done, I will then generate yet another natal foundation and check every single line to make sure that it hasn't hallucinated. But by and large, guys, it's really coming together very, very well. It's there hasn't been complete failure in the mechanism that's been put together to assemble this. And certainly the things that I've produced for a couple of people now are proving to be quite relevant, quite precise, and very much reflective of the person in terms of their personality and the events that have happened in the dates that they've told me and about those events. So pretty happy with the product, quite proud of what I've built so far, guys, and I'm just going to keep going. I know I made promises before that I'm going to have this out for beta testing a long time ago, but I figure that if I can get it more right, when I say more right, there's something that is built into my personality here. When you read something about my personality, I'm actually trying to eyeball it here. Mercury is a sole depositor. Every planet chain in this chart terminates at Mercury in Virgo, where Mercury holds both domicile and exaltation, the strongest possible essential dignity, yet Mercury is retrograde under the beams and makes no aspect within the qualifying 5-degree orb. The chart integrating point is simultaneously its most essentially dignified planet and most structurally isolated. Everything routes to Mercury through deposited chains, but Mercury communicates with no other planet directly through aspects. This creates a chart architecture where integration happens through internalized analytical process rather than through relational dialogue with other planetary functions. So without labouring that, basically, guys, you have I'm somebody that looks for detail, and things need a level of precision, and things need to be correct. There's no ambiguity in the way that this thing needs to come together. It needs to be correct. I am relied somewhat on an AI to help me develop the product, and sometimes the AI will come back and it'll say, "Hey, Marcus, this is all good. This is a one-off event," and I've got to really push back on the AI and say, "Hey, yeah, look, hey, that's not acceptable." So I tend to find that from time to time, well, not time to time. AIs make mistakes, and they make quite a few mistakes. So very much a part of what I'm doing is making sure that the AI is on track, and making sure that I'm on track, making sure that I actually understand astrology to the extent that I need to in order to build a product that somebody can rely on. So yeah, the learning curve is on a number of different facets. It's been substantial, but quite enjoyable at the same time, guys. In any case, enough from me. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. Bye.